For the longest time, the XXXL Freshman list was a rite of passage for any upcoming rapper trying to hit it big. Ever since 2009, XXL Magazine has been putting out the XXXL Freshman class every year to show off the newest rising artists. Whenever you got invited to be on the list, it used to mean you were famous or you were about to be famous. Rappers such as Kendrick Lamar, Future, J. Cole, Travis Scott, and more have been introduced on this list and have gone on to have prolific careers. But you can't really predict the future because artists have sometimes fallen off the face of the earth. In this video, we're going to talk about the Forgotten XXXL Freshmen and what happened to him. Desiigner was born on May 3rd, 1997 in Brooklyn, New York from the Bed-Stuy neighborhood of the Louis Armstrong projects. Growing up, music was always in his life, singing in choir in church as a kid, with his grandfather being a famous blues singer who he was actually named after. He started rapping when he was about 14 under a different name till his sister helped him come up with the name Desiigner, including the two I's. He started dropping music at the end of 2015 and he had a very distinct, deep voice, so deep that he was being compared to Future. On December 15th, he dropped Panda on SoundCloud. The song was made from a Meek Mill type beat he bought for $200 and it made him a star. This song was everywhere in 2016. You couldn't go a day without hearing
I got broads in Atlanta.
Whether it was in Vines or a YouTube intro. It is literally the most 2016 song ever. It caught the attention of the labels and the song went so far it got Kanye West's attention. Out of all people, Desiigner really gravitated to Kanye when he was given the offer, understandably because of his decades-long influence, and in February 2016, he signed with Good Music and they helped him fully release the song. On the Good Music label, he was featured on 2 songs off of Kanye's album, The Life of Pablo. He was performing at South by Southwest, he was in the studio with Mike Dean, he got a place on the legendary XXL Freshman class of 2016, and this is where his song Timmy Turner came from.
Everybody walking, you know that it's on the finest for bitch or BT.
He was all over the place, collabing with rappers such as Gucci Mane, 2 Chainz, Travis Scott, and Quavo, just to name a few. He was becoming an A-list celebrity off of just one song, going #1 after 9 weeks, taking the spot from the Rihanna song Work. By the end of 2016, just a year after dropping it on SoundCloud, it already went platinum 4 times. Keep in mind, this was all from his debut single. He was only 18 and his entire world around him completely changed over the span of a year, becoming the hottest rapper out of New York at the time. Going #1 off your debut single is one of the most insane things that can happen in an artist's career, but this really puts a lot of expectations on you because of how much happens at the beginning. A lot of times this leads to one-hit wonders, but at first, people didn't really know that would happen to Desiigner because his mixtape New English was very promising. It debuted at number 22 and sold 16K first week. He charted with Timmy Turner in another song called Outlet, and it was looking like he might not end up a one-hit wonder. With all this love came with hate because of the comparisons to Future. A lot of people thought he was a Future clone, but if you listen to interviews, that's just how his voice sounds.
Yo, much love, man. Shout out to all my Chinese fans, man. Y'all know what time it is. We in the building. BTS, man. Mic drop. We about to drop it real soon. Shout out Steve O'Key. Y'all know what time it is.
But this didn't stop Future and other rappers from his label from dissing him. With all the pressure on him at just the age of 18, he started doing substances to cope with it. Everything he did was getting outshined by his biggest hit. Over time, Kanye was starting to lose interest in him and wasn't letting him drop as much. And as the years went on, he was changing his mind about things and started getting tired of Kanye. And by 2018, when he finally did drop, he didn't even chart in the top 100. His fans liked the project, but he was really being slept on. In 2020, he left Good Music after being shelved for so long, but instead of figuring out his next move as a free agent, he spent too long looking back at the good old days of 2016. As a kid who just turned 18, too much happened to him and too fast. Instead of a gradual come up in the underground scene and a slow rise to the top, he had it all on the first try, but didn't know how to follow it up. At this point, it was obvious this sudden rise and fall really got to him in the form of lashing out on IG Live. And he went further in the downward spiral when he got caught busting a nut on a plane. Come on, Desiigner, no! After this, he got arrested for indecent exposure and the news started making rounds. He got sentenced to 2 years of probation and 120 hours of community service. He opened up publicly that he wasn't in the best state mentally and he went into therapy. Hopefully things do get better in the future for him, but at least he got a giant pile of money to sit on. OG Maco was born April 23rd, 1992 in College Park, Georgia. He was influenced by a mix of rap and rock artists such as Black Sabbath, Kid Cudi, and Currency. Growing up, he was kind of a bad kid going around doing risky shit, but after just barely getting off a charge at 19, that really made him realize to change his ways. He was in a rock band called Dr. Doctor where he was the vocalist and played guitar. He never really had the money to pay for a studio session, so that didn't really go anywhere other than local shows. That energy he felt whenever he played live stuck with him and is seen in his later music. Eventually, he would finally record and drop his first set of mixtapes from 2011 to 2012 under his real name. He started going under the name OG Maco in 2013, getting little attention from his songs until he decided to just mess around on the mic and make a dumb song. It's just a dumb song, right? The impact this song had at the time was unpredictable. You guessed it, blew up on Vine back in 2014 because it was just different. The hard-ass 808s over a simple trap piano beat with dumb lyrics and ad-libs came way out of left field. He charted when the remix he made with 2 Chainz debuted at number 94 and peaked at number 90. He signed to Quality Control and got on the XXXL Freshman class of 2015. His influence isn't really credited a whole lot, but it can be seen in the fact that he had a more darker and rock-inspired aesthetic, calling himself a rock star. Does this sound familiar? His look and his sound has had an influence on rap, but he would go on and over-exaggerate it in the future. That influence also spread so far to South Korea, where a rapper named Keith Ape dropped a song that sounded very similar to, you guessed it. Maco would make the first of many tweets that soured his reputation as soon as he got famous, beefing with people over small stuff like the Migos dabbing, XXL because they used the word rockstar, talking about Lil Uzi, and Beyonce herself over a music video being filmed in a hotel just like his video. He never really had another hit after you guessed it, and these dumb tweets played a huge role in that. With another example being when he was getting on the Future about how he glorified drugs in his music and how that affected people. People realized how dumb that was when they remembered he did the same thing in his own music. The reason why he doesn't get credit for the influence he does have is because instead of spending time actually being something new, he was trying to prove himself in the wrong way by talking so much on Twitter and trying to take credit for other people too much for him to even keep a career. But that was the least of his worries, because in July of 2016, he got in a car accident so bad that it was almost fatal, but by the grace of God, he survived, with a lot of injuries and almost losing one of his eyes. After enough surgeries, it got back to normal. But in 2019, he had a minor skin rash, but the doctor didn't treat it right, and it ended up turning into a full-on flesh-eating disease on his face. This disease led to him developing depression to the point of him wanting to end it all. This wasn't the end of these thoughts, because in December 2024, police were called to investigate a gunshot at OG Maco's house, and he was found injured in an attempt to take his own life. He was rushed to the emergency room and had emergency surgery done on him. He was put on life support, and the news of this went viral. Say Cheese reported that he passed away, but that was shut down by Maco's manager and explained further by his family that he's in critical but stable condition. But after a week in the hospital in a coma, he was unable to be revived, and he was pronounced dead December 27th, 2024. A pioneer of trap metal and an influence on the rap game for years to come, gone too soon at the age of 32 because he felt so alone. Don't let his comments from 10 to 11 years ago take away from the fact that he needed help that he unfortunately never got. Wifisfuneral was a rapper mostly known for being associated with XXXTentacion and Members Only back when the group was still active. He grew up in Palm Beach, Florida after the family moved out the Bronx back when he was 7. Mental health has always been a problem for him, and he would eventually start expressing that in his music after he saw the video for Mo Money, Mo Problems on MTV, realizing he wanted to be a rapper. Over time, he would become more focused on this dream to the point where he stopped caring about school and started making music off a rock band microphone back in 2010. By sophomore year of high school, his grandma sat him down and sarcastically told him if he wanted to take music seriously, then he'd have to drop out of school. Wi-Fi took this very seriously and did exactly that, dropping out of school at the age of 15 and never looking back. He started dropping music on SoundCloud in 2012, way before it was even popular. He didn't know it yet, but this obscure website would eventually be the same place that would change his whole life. He dropped music switching through a couple of different names until he and DJ Scheme himself started a rap duo called Wifisfuneral. Now obviously this is where he got his name from, and when the group split up, Wi-Fi decided to just take that name for himself. In his early music, it's very clear there's a huge Mac Miller influence.
Life without stress, that's a life that's free. A life without you, that's a life without me. Trying to perfect my craft with mixed craft, but I sit back with my shit, this microphone.
And Wi-Fi was rapping about drugs in his songs, but later on he would actually start a lifelong addiction problem after getting access to opioids through a kid that was prescribed them in the neighborhood. Before he turned 17, his addiction was so much of a problem to the point where he OD'd twice, with the second time leading to a stroke that paralyzed the left side of his body to the point where his left leg has never worked the same ever since.
Yeah, I caught a stroke. Whole left side of my body was like done.
Really?
Stiffed up. Like face stiff. This whole left side of my body was literally completely stiff. I couldn't move it. My boy that was there at the time, he got so paranoid that he damn near like almost broke my kneecap because he tried to like pop my knee back into place and like at least like hold my shit until I went to the hospital. And had I not did that, they honestly said that I was gonna flatline.
What made everything even worse is that around the same time, his mama kicked him out of the house. However, there was a glimmer of hope when he met this girl while he was crowd surfing. He thought he was in love with this girl until he found out that she was fucking another man. That other man was none other than XXXTentacion. At first he was mad at him, but he never knew how important this man would become. They met in person and became friends very fast. They related a lot because they both got kicked out the house very young, and they decided they should join together as a rap group. This rap group was Members Only. Members Only was originally a rap duo, with X already having a tape out with Ski Mask at the same time, but they were recruiting members. After all that time couch surfing, he finally got to stay in the house long term with the rest of Members Only in 2015. There was a lot of hope for him now because he finally had a place to live. His music started blowing up when he made a song with a couple other rappers from the Orlando area called Surrf. This was important because they stood out in the Florida rap scene with the majority of rappers coming out of Miami at the time. This same song would be the one that got him enough of a buzz to start doing shows in the area. Even though he was a part of Members Only, he always wanted to have a solo career. When he dropped his next project called This Is Temporary, he got noticed by Earl Sweatshirt himself on Twitter. Wi-Fi was starting to get discovered because of the Earl Sweatshirt fans coming in, and even more when he got a No Jumper interview in 2016. In the middle of the interview, he fell asleep because of the amount of drugs he was on all at the same time. This became a running joke within the No Jumper community, bringing him more attention. And he would come back to No Jumper a second time when XXX brought the Members Only crew to his interview. Not only Wi-Fi, but Members Only as a whole was coming up in the underground, and this was when X and Wi-Fi started collabing together. He never really made it onto any of the Members Only tapes, but he was still coming up, releasing a mixtape with a feature from Suicide Boys. Everything was starting to head in the right direction, but not in his personal life. He still had problems with his mental health, writing a full-on note. But this note was turned into an album of his called When Hell Falls. But at the same time, XXX was blowing up with the song Look at Me, and after the Revenge mixtape dropped, him and the rest of Members Only went on the Revenge tour. This was a very good moment in Wi-Fi's career because while he was getting noticed for his own music, he was starting to get more exposure because of his association to X. He would make headlines after a crowd surfing incident on the very first day of the tour. Wi-Fi was trying to jump into the crowd, but he dove feet first, kicking someone in the head. That same person and a few other people dragged him into the crowd, and ironically enough, a song called Suicide Pit was playing when this happened. He got knocked out, but he recovered and came back to the tour after some time, but not before everybody started talking about it. He used the clip of DJ Academics talking about it on his song Lil Jeff Hardy on his next mixtape, Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Cannonball or some type of swanton bomb into your section of the crowd.
Walk up in this bitch, I'm flexed up.
This was dropped on the Alamo Records after he signed with them back in March, and it did pretty good. He was on his way up, getting features with hot rappers at the time like Young Benz, Ugly Guys, Smoke Perp, Danny Towers, Comethazine, and more. And after the Revenge tour ended, Wi-Fi decided he wanted to leave Members Only. When he told X this, he didn't really like that because at the same time, so many other members were leaving the group. He felt like he was being used by everyone and felt abandoned when they left. This led to X and Wi-Fi falling out, but this didn't stop Wi-Fi going on to have a solo career. having success with his own solo music in 2017 and 18. What Wi-Fi didn't know is that 2018 would be his best year yet. After delays with clearing samples and features, he dropped his biggest album to date called Ethernet, getting features from Lil Skies and YB and Namir back when they were famous. That song with Namir got its own music video on Worldstar. Everything was going amazing, and a few days later, that's when he got onto the XXXL Freshman class of 2018. You would think that after that emotional roller coaster of a life, that hard work, after trials and tribulations, he would become mainstream. But if you're an X fan, you know exactly what happened on this date. But if you don't know, on June 18th, 2018, Wi-Fi's longtime friend and SoundCloud legend XXX passed away. Understandably, this hit him hard, and to cope with the complicated emotions he was dealing with at the time, the mix of success with emotional grief led him further down the path of addiction. Other than a gold-certified song with Snot, his career was still limited to underground hits and fan favorites. And as the SoundCloud era was ending, he didn't really know what to do anymore because of the rise of TikTok. But there's still a light at the end of the tunnel for him because he started going to rehab for his long-time addiction problem, and it's further better after all these rough years.